This morning I wake up, right? It's like 7:30. I wake up with unbelievable intentions to research and then discuss the presidential election that happened in the year 2000 between Al Gore and George, just regular W, babe. As is the nature of me and my research, I had to go back, obviously, to 1999 when, and just like a verloque pause, like see what the fuck is happening. What's the environment? I just had to scope the scenery out. Was I alive? Yes, I was 4. I don't fucking recall. So, I did. Have you all ever heard the story of Emilian Gonzalez? Let me tell you. The year is 1999. Bill Clinton is in office, freshly disgraced, because gross. His vice president, Al Gore, is the one who ends up running in the year 2000. The state of Florida was basically the deciding factor in the election of the year 2000. That's a full other conversation. This is beforehand the pretextuals, right? And like, why are Miami Cubans the way they are? Here's the story. Thanksgiving Day, 1999. 2 fishermen are out. They're about 3 miles offshore of like Fort Lauderdale area. They see a intertube, like a donut, floating in the water. What is that? They go to it. There's a 5-year-old child on that inner tube. That child is Emilian Gonzalez, who left Cuba with his mother. At this time, the United States had a rule. I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically like if you get 1 foot on land, you're good. Like you're granted asylum in the United States for people from Cuba. In 99, Fidel was still very much in charge. So the mother and this child take the journey. Stick a pin, hang on. If you have not lived under Fidel Castro's government, please don't. I swear to God, with the most love, I don't need your opinion about how it's actually U.S. propaganda and Fidel wasn't that bad. If you didn't ever live under him, no, thank you. So this mother risks her life and her child's life to give this little boy a possibility of a future in the United States. She dies on the trip across the ocean. The little boy does not. He is, like I said, found on Thanksgiving morning. While he's in Miami, he's staying with his distant relatives, like a great uncle or something. But his father, who is in Cuba, is like, let me get my son back. The story basically gets picked up and politicized deeply. And it's turned into like Castro versus the US, democracy versus not. Does this kid go back to his father? Did the father know? Which I'm not sure. If the father knew that the mom was taking the kid anyway, and, the family in Miami that he was staying with was saying, this is his mother's dying wish that he, is raised in the U.S. Again, bro, with all due respect, and listen, this is the me's of the world that have grown up in the United States and are hip to the fuckery of our government. You have to understand, you know what I'm saying? Like, what we're not going to do is sit here and be like, why would she do that? Again, if you didn't live under Fidel, you don't understand. So, little boy becomes like this big pawn, basically. And the Cuban American community, specifically in Dade County, specifically in Miami, which was where he was, advocated very much for him to stay in the States. His father obviously wanted him to come home. It went through 1,000 levels of court, local, state, up. Basically, it ended up being that Janet Reno, who was the U.S. Attorney General at the time, was the face of what the final decision ended up being, which was send him to his father. Like I said, this happened under Clinton. Janet Reno, Democrat. And Janet Reno from Miami. Many Cuban Americans in South Florida felt very betrayed by that whole situation. Also, important note. He was found rescued on Thanksgiving. Again, Thanksgiving is fucking problematic. However, to somebody who risked them and their child's life, like, you gotta understand that shit represents democracy for them. So that was symbolic. Also, how do I even explain? To Cubans, there is the Virgin Mary patron saint. Her name is Caridad del Cobre. And it's the story of a man lost at sea, and Caridad kept him safe. Hang on. La Santísima Cachita. Okay? So, I gotta put this back. So, this story was a very big deal, and very big among, like, specifically the Cubans in Florida, but all Cuban Americans. Like, there was a lot of very symbolic elements, and they felt very betrayed by the Democratic Party. So, the Democratic Party had a lot lesser of a turnout in Florida in the election a few months later. That was not the reason. Like, that's just a factor. That's a mere factor. I just had never heard the story before, so when I found it today, I got derailed as fuck. Now, make no mistake, when Emilian went back to Cuba, very much like a hero's welcome, Fidel would come to his birthday parties and stuff. I have questions. I need either Ryan, hey girl, where's Ramon? I have questions. I have preguntas. Y también the man who gives out Halloween candy. I love him. I just have questions for people who I know for sure grew up in Cuba. How was that story presented in Cuba? Was it like he was kidnapped? How was the mother presented in that story? What else is my question? Ay! Lo siento. Also, like, what was his life like when he came back from Cuba? Did he remain like everybody knows that name? What? Tell me it from a Cuban point of view. Just a piece of the story. Basically, when the case was like a lot more elaborate than, I only have 10 minutes, babe, shit. When they went to get the kid from his family in Dade County, because they, were like, we're not sending him back. Fuck that. So, like, the law had to go and get him. I don't know how, but somehow there was a tip that, they have guns, like, at their house. It don't mean that they're going to use them. But there is a Pulitzer Prize winning photo from the retrieval mission of getting the little boy. It's insane. Like, we're here to help you. To a 5-year-old who's scared as fuck, you could tell. Which, like, way to go, Estados Unidos. So now what? Then you're gonna fucking send him back to Cuba, where Fidel is gonna be at all his birthday parties, gonna be like, you remember that time there was a fucking gun in your veins? Cuba libre. But not Cuba under control. And now the young man is, I don't know if he's in politics or a lawmaker or what. Fucking crazy story, bro. I had never heard about it. Did it? I was a baby.